What's going on, creators? Yeah, just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Today I'd like to bring up a topic about kind of the nature of like running a business. Whether it's self-employment or entrepreneurship, where you have employees and all that kind of stuff. I'm still kind of on the recruiting end of trying to get some help for my handyman business. Started reaching out to people in my own just like network, people that are employed, and trying to come up with some different strategies to maybe make a better offer, or opportunity. I don't know how to describe it. It's just I thought it'd be a lot easier to get some help, because in the past, my handyman business is about 4 years old now. Yeah, in the past, people would just be asking me to do jobs like, hey, do you need some help? You need some help. And, a lot of times in the past, I'd have like fears about like taking on that kind of responsibility. And, because at the time, it's just a kind of going with the flow of things and not really caring about money all that much, and being able to through seeing how often God provides the money and the opportunities and all these things start to present themselves when you're open to that and you're going kind of with the flow. And in doing more for others, than yourself, these things start to line up and start to come together. And it's funny because like the resistance and all this stuff that starts to pop up like now, where it's like, okay, well, I got plenty of jobs at the moment, which means plenty of money to pay others, and really trying to develop a team and delegate these responsibilities instead of so much of this thing for me is letting go of the control, just wanting to be a control freak on things and wear all these different hats and spin all these different plates myself because I can't trust others to do it right, and letting go of that kind of programming and letting go of why I think that. And learning to trust more, growing in like trusting others is something I'm actively doing. I started to think last night, because I've went to the Chamber of Commerce. I got some help when it comes to recruiting options through them. Temp agencies, Work One, which is like the local unemployment branch or whatever. They're going to then. What is my dog doing? But like they're going to then, promote, through their kind of message boards and job boards and stuff like that. And then like the temp agencies, they were coming up with like, some pretty big numbers, as far as like fees to find people. Like one of them was like a direct hire, if that was what it was, and didn't have like a duration of like me paying the temp agency for this person or whatever. It's like $3,000 for a direct hire employee. And so I just feel like I can do better than that through just tapping my kind of network of people through word of mouth, and ultimately, really trusting that God's going to like kind of pull this thing together through maybe, some like luck or, synchronistic type of, recruitment process. I was talking to a cousin of mine. He's a little bit older than me, but, he's been like, he's like a really good employee for like the place he's been working. I think he's been working there for like maybe a decade, but he's been helping do some work for my dad and stuff. And so I was just like thinking, how can I kind of make an offer to him, see if I can, maybe it would be great to work with someone I already have established trust. And so in trying to trust others, it's like instead of like going complete stranger route, maybe try to tap somebody that I can, already have like kind of a trust built-in relationship. Let's try that and see what that does. And so a big part of like making a business, making your own money, being self-employed, the only difference is like the degree and scale. It's like if you can do self-employment and you're starting to figure out how the flow of money and jobs and offering value and creating opportunities for others, you start seeing how that starts to work together. It's the same process. And like I was telling him, I knew he'd be kind of expensive to work with because he's been steadily working at this place for probably a decade, and but at the same time, I know his kind of character, and his background and stuff, and so it would be a great opportunity for both of us. And so the light bulb for me is like, well, let's see if I can maybe make an offer, because ultimately the money game, the business game is about doubling. It's really all a game. It's like the big part of like the egoic consciousness and scarcity mindset is like it plays on two different fears. One is the scarcity of not enoughness, and then the other is that there is enough, but then the fear of loss. And so, like when you're taking on an employee or a contractor, or however this is going to work out. I'm not really sure on paper how this is all going to happen. It's better to hire as like an independent contractor and then pay a higher percentage of commission, or how it's going to work out. But like ultimately it's kind of just going with the flow and just trying it, see what happens, because I have the jobs, I have the ability to pay out of those jobs. And like I was telling him, it's like ultimately my goal is, if you're working for me, is just like you're gonna be my main go-to, so I'm gonna just say, here's these jobs, and I just kind of expect you to do it without me being very much involved, really working unsupervised. And I'd be willing to, ultimately my goal is just to double. So if the job, I make $500, I'm looking to pay you $250. So I'm looking to double that money, so then I can take that and flip it for the cafe, and and continue in that whole kind of structure of just doubling and doubling and doubling. Because the nature of just the money game, if you're not in scarcity and you don't really take it that seriously, it's not that big of a deal. It's when you start taking it seriously where it's like all of a sudden it becomes dramatic and reactive. The biggest part of like staying in flow, staying in the present moment is not getting overwhelmed and becoming reactive because of fear. A big part of like self-employment, entrepreneurship, making your own money is just kind of you get these little bit of dramas and these like resistance, recognizing that on the other side of that resistance is the achievement, that leveling up. And everybody's at different levels, and so not to sit there and judge people or judge the situation or any of that, but make peace with what is. Be okay with whatever is going on, and if there's something that's like presenting itself, maybe it's a like a one and done kind of issue, or there's sometimes a tendency to start seeing repeating patterns, and in those repeating patterns, recognize that it's really reflecting a condition within the head of in your head. Basically, if you're running this thing, if you're running your own business, it's a reflection of you. And so not to sit there and blame others, especially if you see reoccurring pattern after reoccurring pattern with different people, but it's the same type of thing. Go within, start really looking within yourself and what kind of mental stories you're telling yourself, what kind of programming you're telling yourself, and that's what I'm, kind of doing, because, it's more about being than it is about, being up in your mind, being, whatever. So a lot of like being up in your mind is just being reactive to fear, and a lot of those fears come from illusions that aren't actually even real problems. A lot of times that through the doing, when maybe some drama starts to present itself, taking those tangible things, well, what can I do about it? Is there anything realistically that I can do based on what I believe reality to be, and where my mind's at, and to the best of my ability and life experience so far, knowing that with God all things are possible, and that you can be, do, or have anything, really, keeping your faith strong in these things. And when these obstacles start to present themselves, which inevitably it seems like that just happens in the course of expansion, growing, doing new things, facing the unknown. And like I told my cousin, I was trying to just really plants a seed more than anything. I don't expect him to, just be like, oh yeah, let me just quit this job after a decade and just try something, completely risky and unknown, but like, I don't know what's going on with this situation. And there's like, with the COVID shit, there's a lot of opportunity, to take care of people, and if employers aren't doing that, I'd be more than happy to do that. That's maybe part of the competitiveness when it comes to like business owners and stuff, and not to look at that as like, oh, being like, I'm going to steal something from you or whatever, but I don't expect others not to do that. If I had a crew of guys that are knocking shit out, and if they weren't happy, I wouldn't think of that as being weird, that maybe a competitor of mine is trying to take a good employee, or is going to take care of them better on some level, or try to make an offer in that way. Why not? When I was doing that flooring job, and I didn't mention this on the other stream, but like the company that was in there, they lost that job to me, and in like mainly because of their own policies. But I was in there working, and the guys that were in there, I don't think care, but it's like the owner might, but like because he kind of just lost that job, and I gained that job, and at the same time I start talking with his employees, and two of which gave me interest in possibly picking up some jobs with me. But at the same time, that could be, people could look at that and be like, oh, you're being shady or shifty or whatever, and it's like, I'm just taking things one day at a time, and it's like these opportunities are presenting themselves. If that employer is forcing their employees to maybe take some experimental vaccine, or have to do a bunch of drama and bullshit to work there, or maybe they're ripping them off, or maybe making them feel like there's not other options, just planting seeds, that's all you can do. And if they're not going to take care of their people, if they are taking care of their people, they wouldn't have any interest anyway. And so it's not about controlling what others are doing anyway. I'm ultimately trying to, really in just my own business, is just, for one, I just want to double it. For two, I want to, give opportunity for others to grow with it, and basically have their own, like, I was listening to I forget what, but they're talking about, there's like the entrepreneur, business creator mindset, and just creator in general mindset, but then that can come in two flavors. Really what separates an entrepreneur from a or a business, or labels, but like the guy that puts up the money, that takes that initial risk, versus another guy that can virtually do the exact same thing, probably better, that didn't put up the money and didn't take the risk, but it can also just be a great asset to what you're doing. There's a kind of relationship there, and that's kind of what kind of relationship with my cousin, I was thinking about, would be an awesome deal, because like I told him, if I'm getting 60 an hour, I just want to double it. And so, that leaves $30 to play around with. How exactly we can make that work and be a mutual benefit, I don't know yet. This is all new, unknown, but at the same time, not really too concerned about taking those leaps of faith, just because I just have so much experience in doing that, and seeing how when you take that leap so many times, I've had that with like buying tools and shit that are expensive, like a paint sprayer, like $500-$600 for a paint sprayer. You might sit there rattling around in your mind of like, oh shit, this is a big upfront expense, or a power washer, $500 power washer, and it's like, do I really want to do that? When you're playing around with cash or whatever, money, and it's like, looking at things is like, this is going to cost. When the better mindset, honestly, is like, looking at everything as an investment of like, because as soon as I bought like, the paint sprayer, I've painted thousands and thousands of dollars that I've made from that paint sprayer, to the point now where, I got an issue with it, which I'm going to address today, of like adjusting the pressure relief valve. Somehow it's just lost its tightness of holding the pressure in. So I'm going to end up basically making it so how that kind of flows is it goes up and through the primer, and it comes back out, but then when you really stick something in there, which keeps the primer from getting to the primer, then it holds the pressure. And so I'm just going to cut some wood or something with like a hole saw and just it's, I don't know, almost the size of a dime, that I'll stick in there so it holds the pressure. But it's if I had that break in the future, where in the past where it's like, oh, should I get it? Should I not buy that? What if I don't do this? And it's like a no-brainer. So it's like, well, it doesn't cost $500. It makes me $2,000, on the next painting job, and so same thing with like getting some help, realizing that a big part of that drama, and even when talking to him, I just feels that resistance start to creep in of like, ooh, what if that doesn't work out? Oh, what if he quits his steady job and takes a risk with me? And what if worst case scenario, kind of stinking thinking, that kind of like mindsets, but it's like, how about, what if it works out? What if, I can change his life and pay him more money than he's ever made in his entire life? I don't know what's going on with his employer. If they're threatening like, oh, you have to work here, you have to take something. If he works for me, you won't ever have to worry about that. I don't want to control his body. I don't even want to control his mind. I want to free him and give him an opportunity to thrive and take that kind of opportunity to create his own vision inside of my vision. And it's like we'll see how that goes, because I plant that seed. Maybe it never not maybe it happens for somebody else. I'm not really sure, but part of this thing is being patient, but not being I like to be patient, but then proactive in that patience. I still have to get these jobs done. It'd be great to have these things start to work out. But whenever God does that, that's when God does it. I'm not gonna sit there and battle what is, and try to change it. But ultimately, just keep focusing on gratitude, focusing on the things I'm thankful for, and really, what can I what's next? How can I expand? How can I grow? How can I take what I have now and double it? If that involves getting an employee, getting a team is ultimately the vision. And the building I'm painting now, I'm working for a guy. He's kind of maybe a couple levels above where I'm at as far as like business skills and like with his construction business. He's got a crew. He said he's out for, I think, a year. He said, but like the place I'm painting for him, I think he said he put like 20 something grand into it. He had to ultimately, I think, donate it or whatever. And his wife, she started a business in town, and they're kind of in the same thing of just trying to expand and grow. And I think after I get done painting this building, which will be, I don't know, I think the third or fourth pretty big painting job I've done for this guy. I painted one of his houses. I painted a gigantic barn. I think that was like 36 or 37 gallons of paint that I used to do that. Really super nice building too. The place was owned by a guy that owns a factory here in town, which employs probably, it was like 3 shifts, hundreds of people. I mean, this house was, fancy, nice, and that what I painted in that garage, I think they're using that for weddings, if that gives you kind of a mental imagery, of like the scale of the niceness. It was super nice. But like now this building, which I'll get you guys some pictures so you can see the progress. Really want to just put that out there so you guys can kind of just see this flow, because it's different and maybe some people think. I don't know. It's hard to even gauge anymore what people are thinking. With with some of the stuff, but like ultimately continuing to get this team together, so then I can delegate these responsibilities and delegate to people that are better at doing things than I am. And part of letting go of that control is when are you doing that? that's now. That's all part of this flow of being in the present, being consciously aware of, being mindful of like your energy, your state of being, and recognizing if you're drifting into fear, because ultimately fear is what you're not. And in doing a business and doing self-employment and doing these types of things, you're facing fear. That's the only thing that separates you from everybody else in what you're doing, is that you're going for it. And in that you're facing the unknown, and continuously, as you're growing, you're doing new things, you're experiencing new things, and it's like, how are you going to tackle this new drama, this new problem? There, and the more that you do it, and realize that, okay, well, really, if I just make my focus when it comes to the money end of it, looking at it as opportunities to double it, instead of, oh, if I pay this person X amount, then I lose that. Focusing more on, if I pay this person X amount, I make this and they make that. Instead of not looking at that mindset of loss, which is another example of scarcity that kind of presents itself in a different way, and letting go of that programming, because things aren't scarce and things are abundant, and whether or not the illusions of these things present themselves, it's irrelevant, because through facing it and standing in faith and being bold and courageous, you'll overcome these things. And then slowly, as you just start, what kind of tangible do you do now? What now? These big, what sometimes seem like big puzzles, start to come together, and it starts to work together, as long as you're and then the other part is, as you change the doing, if you start doing, then you start to realize that a lot of these resistant thoughts start to change as you change the order. So many times that you'll hear, oh, okay, I got a safe thing. Don't sit there and judge yourself for the egoic kind of consciousness, because it's really just trying to keep you safe from danger. But the problem with that is then it starts keeping you in loops of the past, because it's like you got unique situations that are always happening. Everything is unique and everything is new. And so constantly referring to past experience on new problems that are uniquely new problems, a lot of times that keeps you in stagnation. You keep putting the same Band-Aid on, instead of trying something different that might have a whole better outcome for everybody. And really keeping your focus on others. And I drew this before, and maybe this is kind of, we can use this same kind of analogy, but with this inner projecting outwards, looking at like cash flow, for example, coming from above or within, it's all part of, looking at it as, part of God's abundance, being tapped into that, being one with that, because you and God, have a special relationship, that that you're connected, with these things through your faith. But, if you don't have the faith, then all of a sudden you're kind of severing your own connection. And so, this flow, it's like you can, think of it like a hose, where it's like the abundance is coming from God's abundance, but you are there stewarding whatever God has gave you to manage. Growing anything beyond your ability to manage it, now all of a sudden can start to spin you out into fear, scarcity, the separate ego mind, thinking that you are a separate little self, when you are connected with not only what's happening in your environment, but your connection with people, your business. It's all connected to your faith, and is a representation of your faith. So your money, your take home or whatever, that's connected with your belief in your worthiness. And a lot of this, as you're growing and you're expanding, you're doing new things, maybe following your dreams, and your dreams are coming to a full realization. They're manifesting. Maybe you got a bunch of momentum. Instead of facing the resistance, it's just momentum. It just keeps building and building. And a lot of times, like, that feels like that with my handyman business, where in the past, in the music business, there is momentum in the music business. In that business, the terminology is buzz, and so a new artist, has got some buzz as another kind of way to describe momentum. They're hot, they're popping, they're this and that, and so there's a lot of buzz with them. So it's another way of saying there's a lot of momentum with what they're doing. But it can also be a lot of resistance if you're like kind of what I did, is doing independently, being a producer, being a guitarist, being a musician, doing that independently. There was a lot of resistance, so it was like overcoming more walls of resistance and stuff like that, versus the momentum of getting together with a team of people and building this thing collectively. It's like a lot of times, like a label deal, maybe the artist gets, depending on the deal, maybe 10%, 90%. I got offered that one time, for a publishing deal where it's like a 90-10 split, and it's just like, but the argument always is, it's like, well, 10% of something is better than half of nothing, or what, did I say that right? 10% of something is better than half of nothing. Something like that. And maybe there is some truth to that, because, as you're making money for others, you're drinking from that same hose, but it's all about your mindset about it. But like, changing into, more of a momentum thing, like with the handyman business, it's like every time I do a good job or a big job, I get these, before and after pictures where then people can see it, and that's part of like maybe something I'm good at is in marketing, and promoting, digitally like that. But then I start getting some buzz. It's the same thing, painting this building. I had 2 people stop and talk to me, one of which wanted a quote to paint their house, and they told me the pricing where the other guy was at. It was like $2,600. So if I can, paint that one story, it was like 900 square foot or something like that. It wasn't that big, and if I can be at, and I don't want to be the cheap guy either. That's the other end of things. It's like, I think that's part of a scarcity mindset, where it's like a lot of my stuff, I really focus on value, not the pennies. It's like I put a lot of time and attention to make it look as good as possible, because I want to create a good energy, and so I don't want to be working with everybody. That simple. There's a certain type of customer I want to work with. And that doesn't include the Walmart mentality of, oh, we'll take everybody and this is the bottom dollar and shit like that. There's a place for that, and if somebody in town wants to be that, good, be that. I'm choosing to do differently, because I just I just see there's more value in doing that, and it's more of an alignment with the vision of moving forward. But like using that momentum though to then pivot. So like with this, this building that I'm painting, it's right in the middle of like downtown for the most part. So there's a lot of eyeballs on what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be wearing like my business shirts, so people be a walking billboard basically, so people can see. And with that, who knows what that's going to lead to. Part of the excitement of this thing is in the unknown, is there's the fear of like worst case scenario, but at any moment something amazing could be happening. And that's like a Neville Goddard technique of isn't it wonderful, and a lot of like renewing the mind and keeping a positive mind, a mind at peace, a mind of Christ is biblically kind of. But what does that mean? What is those labels? What are these words? It's like just maintaining that balance where you're not what if, and then your mind just unconsciously spinning out. Being at peace to me is being able to rest in the present moment with a cleared mind, where it's not just these random fire thoughts and worst case scenarios and I need to react to this. It's more of I don't know how to describe it really. It's just like you're just at ease, at peace. You're not worried. It's like playing guitar. People can ripping a solo or something. That maybe somebody never heard somebody that could play that in person like that. And what they think you're thinking about, they could be like, gee, I wonder what that guy's thinking about as he's sitting up here doing that. But as someone who does music, literally I'm thinking about nothing. You play a solo or something, you just become, you almost become autotelic. It's the same thing where you're just like in flow, where you're just taking it and just becoming almost like one with it in this weird way. And you can do that with everything. It doesn't really matter what your body's doing. You can keep that kind of a mindset, and with that mindset, being able to use it to be a benefit for people in the team, people in the community. It just expands, and with that, continuing to ride that wave. You never know what's going to happen. And so like with the Neville Goddard technique of like, isn't it wonderful, it kind of counteracts the worst case scenario thinking that the ego mind does automatically and unconsciously at times. Shifting that around, by doing for one, but then at the same time as you're doing what you're maybe afraid to do, you're facing that unknown, having a mindset, those mental stories that you're telling yourself, oh, isn't it wonderful that I'm able to do this and be able to really help this person, fix a problem that has maybe been bothering them. Isn't it wonderful that I can if someone feels trapped, like they gotta take some experimental vaccine, and because they don't feel like they have any other options, isn't it wonderful that I could save them from that drama if they wanted to work with me, that I could create a really positive work environment for them, be a blessing to them. Isn't it and just you start telling yourself these different stories as you're facing that unknown. You're able to just vibe in a different state of being, because the alternative, and this is why it's important to realize this, is the alternative is every time the drama comes, you can look at that as a neutral, because you could then start spinning out in fear, torment, worst case scenario, basically create a pendulum for yourself where you're just creating your own bigger and bigger prison with more obligations, responsibilities. And if you're not stewarding what you already have and being able to maintain your peace, maintain that flow with what you have, that thankful attitude, more shit doesn't mean more gratitude in the future. Once you focus on what you're grateful for now, it starts to grow it, because that shift, because it's so easy to be ungrateful, even when things are going right, and you're standing out as being like, it's like, man, that guy's got his shit together. I mean, look, people talking about you. It's a lot of these things are amplifiers. So it's like the more money, the more obligations, the more shit going on, the more phone calls, the more customers. If you're not at peace and enjoying the flow, and are able to kind of almost be detached from the outcome, in a strange way, where it's not like, oh, this is my baby, and I care so much about it that I'm blinded by my love for it. When you're almost a little bit more detached, you're able to have a different perspective, and it's like, the alternative is just scarcity, fear. What's that competitor doing? Oh, I got plot and scheme. I hope this works out. And you're just banging around. And more of these complexities, more of this stuff is just amplifying that state that you're already in, that's causing you drama, anxiety, and probably poor health, ulcers, and can't sleep, and it just amplifies, so really, it's okay to expand and grow. That's part of our nature to do that, because we're all connected, we're all doing these things, but not to fall in the trap where it's like, oh, more out here is going to amplify and become more peace, more joy, more love, more positive, heavenly kind of, creating like a heavenly situation, where people feel blessed to be a part of it, and just being able to share that with others. And so I just wanted to continue to kind of share what's going on in my space, my bubble, what I'm doing. But then also, bring some concepts to your attention. Maybe if you're new to even being self-employed and getting out of the matrix, working, maybe something that you don't desire. Everybody's got different puzzle pieces. Some people, put up the money and they want to be, the boss, and they got this vision. Others want to, have room to do what they do. If like they got a vision, if they can create and expand, doing something for maybe the business owner and grow together. Yeah, that's another thing. Sales guys are like that, where they know that they generate the kings of the castle. Basically, they generate the jobs, and so that's just as probably even more so important than a lot of these other spots. But then you need other people that are really good at just, hey, I just want a safe thing where I can come to. I just want to work hard. I want to be rewarded. Everybody's different in what they want, but being able to see and delegate those kind of roles, and realize that even as you're doing now, as you kind of taking your hands off the wheel, realizing that it's still a reflection of your vision, because we're creators, and with that, it may not feel that way, but it is a lot like that, where so your energy is still, you're still touching it, and so it's still a piece of you on some level. And yeah, with that being said, oh yeah, we got chickens today too. That kind of sped the process. I thought we were going to get those next week, but my wife was just on a roll and just wanted to get it done, and so she went and got 3 of them. I think we're going to get 3 more. We got like an empty fish tank upstairs because they're small. And let me see, I got a picture. Let me get it up for you guys. Gotta do that. It's kind of like a dental thing. It's opposite of what. Yeah. So there's those three chickens. They're going to be egg birds for us, and we got 3 more, I guess, on the way. But like yeah, just continue to share that with you guys too. I get probably. They say the weekend after Mother's Day to get the garden and everything in. I'll show you guys maybe the progress on that as just something to do, because I think that's a fun activity to. I feel like creating in general is one of the keys to just being happy with what's going on in your life. And it doesn't mean necessarily just creating a business or creating money opportunities. Doing a garden, creating maybe music or art, or anything taps you into the oneness of creation on some level, as you start to bring the invisible into visible, bringing thoughts into reality, and watching that grow. It's really satisfying. And so yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna bounce. So thanks everybody for listening, and have a good rest of your now, and God bless.